Well, guys, here we are at the end of the week. It seems hard to believe that we've actually been together on Zoom for 5 days. Amazing. And I don't know about you, but it is now 6 minutes past 2. So in just under 2 hours, we'll know whether we can go back to school. And like I said, fingers crossed, arms crossed, legs crossed, it's going to happen. So, let's see what's happening to our friend Desperaux. I know Tag said to me, he said, "Oh, Mrs. P, I'm a bit worried about our friend Desperaux. But you know what? I have a funny feeling he's quite a clever mouse." So, let's see what happens. Chapter 20. A view from the chandelier. And remember, I told you a chandelier is like this amazing light fixture that hangs from the roof. Some of you might have some at home, and they're quite magnificent. There was in the banquet hall the most beautiful and ornate chandelier. The crystals that hung from it caught the light of the candles on the table and the light from the face of the laughing princess. They danced to the rhythm of the minstrel's music, swaying back and forth, twinkling and beckoning. What better place to view all this glory, all this beauty? There was so much laughing and singing and juggling that no one noticed as Rocuro crawled up a table leg and onto the table, and from there flung himself onto the lowest branch of the chandelier. Hanging by one paw, he swung back and forth, admiring the spectacle below him, the smells of the food, the sound of the music, and the light. The light, the light. Amazing, unbelievable. Rocuro smiled and shook his head. Unfortunately, a rat can hang from a chandelier for only so long before he is discovered. This would be true at even the loudest party. Listener, do you know who it was that spotted him? Do you know who it might be? You're right. The sharp-eyed Princess P. A rat! A rat is hanging from the chandelier! The party, as I have noted, was loud. The minstrels were strumming and singing, the people were laughing and eating, the man with the jingle cap was juggling and jingling, and no one, in the midst of all this merriment, heard the P. No one except Rocuro. Rat? He had never before been aware of what an ugly word rat actually was. Rat! In the middle of all that beauty, it immediately became clear that this was an extremely distasteful syllable. Rat. A curse, an insult, a word totally without light. And not until he heard it from the mouth of the princess did Rocuro realise that he did not like being a rat, that he did not want to be a rat. This revelation hit Rocuro with such force that it made him lose his grip on the chandelier. The rat, dear listener, fell. And he fell right directly into the Queen's bowl of soup. Chapter 21, The Queen's Last Words. Now the Queen loved soup. She loved soup more than anything in the world except for Princess P and the King. And because the Queen loved it, soup was served in the castle for every banquet, every lunch, and every dinner. And what a soup it was! Cook's love and admiration for the Queen and her palate moved the broth that she concocted from the level of mere food to a high art. It was simply delicious. On this particular day, for this particular banquet, Cook had outdone herself. The soup was a masterwork, a delicate mingling of chicken, watercress, and garlic. Roscuro, as he surfaced from the bottom of the Queen's capacious bowl, could not help taking a few appreciative sips as he blundered his way to the top of the liquid. This is quite lovely, he said, distracted for a moment from the misery of his existence. Actually, it's actually quite delightful. See! See! Shouted the Princess P. She stood and she pointed her finger right at Roscuro. Ah, it's a rat! I told you that it was a rat! He was hanging from the chandelier and now he's in Mamma's soup! The musicians stopped playing their guitars. The jugglers stopped juggling. The noble people stopped eating. The Queen looked at Roscuro. Roscuro looked at the Queen. Listener, in the spirit of honesty, I must utter a difficult and unsavoury truth. Rats are not beautiful creatures. They are not even cute. They are really rather nasty beasts, particularly if one happens to appear in your bowl of soup with pieces of watercress clinging to his whiskers. There was a long moment of silence. And then Roscuro said to the Queen, I beg your pardon. In response, the Queen flung her spoon in the air and made an incredible noise. A noise that was in no way worthy of a queen. A noise somewhere between the neigh of a horse and the squeal of a pig. A noise that sounded something like this. No! And then she said, oh, my goodness, there's a rat in my soup. The Queen was really a simple soul, and always, her whole life, had done nothing except state the overly obvious. She died as she lived. There's a rat in my soup! Were the last words she uttered. She clenched her chest and fell over backwards. Her royal chair hit the floor with a thump, and the banquet hall exploded. Spoons were dropped, chairs were flung back. Save her! Thundered the king. You must save her! All the king's men ran to try and rescue the Queen. Roscuro climbed out of the bowl of soup. He felt that really, under the circumstances, it would be probably best if he left. As he crawled across the tablecloth, he remembered the words of the prisoner in the dungeon, his regret that he did not look back at his daughter as he left her. And so Roscuro turned, and he looked back, and he saw that the princess was glaring at him. Her eyes were filled with disgust and fear. Go back to the dungeon, was what the look she gave him. Go back to the darkness is where you belong. This look, dear listener, broke Roscuro's heart. Did you think that rats did not have hearts? Well, you were wrong. All living things have a heart, and the heart of any living thing can actually be broken. If the rat had not looked over his shoulder, perhaps his heart would not have been broken. And it is possible then that I would not have to tell this story at all. But, dear listener, he did look. Chapter 22. He puts his heart together again. Roscuro hurried from the banquet hall. A rat, he said. He put his paw over his heart. I am a rat, and there is no light for rats. There will be no light for me. The king's men were still bent over the Queen. The king was still shouting, Save her! Save her! And the Queen was still dead, of course, when Roscuro encountered the Queen's royal soup spoon lying on the floor. Well, I will have something beautiful. I am a rat, but I will have something beautiful. I will have a crown of my own. And he picked up the spoon and he put it on his head. Yes, said Roscuro, I will have something beautiful and I will have revenge. Both things somehow. There are those hearts, dear listener, that never mend again once they are broken. Or, if they do mend, they heal themselves in a crooked and lopsided way, as if sewn together by a very, very careless craftsman. Such was the fate of Rocuro. His heart was broken. Picking up the spoon and placing it on his head, speaking of revenge, these things helped him to put his heart together again. But alas, his heart was put together wrong. "Where is the rat? Find the rat!" shouted the king. "Well, dear king, if you want me, I will be in the dungeon, and I will be in the darkness." I wonder what happens now. And with any luck, I'll be able to read this story to you in person on Monday. So I've enjoyed reading these stories to you today and yesterday and the day before and the day before that. So I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed reading them to you. Well done, guys. We've reached the end of the week. Remember to give those mums and dads of yours a really huge hug from me and say thank you to them for being such tremendous supports to you guys, because it's not easy for anyone being in lockdown. So I love you heaps. See you on Monday. Mwah.